Sajid, it's so interesting, and there are so many threads that I want to explore there. With Idea Spice that you've created, which is the number one agency for brand and growth partners and trusted advisors of over 2,000 brands in Dubai and now in Oman and Saudi. But before I explore your whole story with Idea Spice, I want to get a little bit into your story because I know it's super unique. You are someone who has been in the world of business and in the world of design thinking, in the world of brand creation for 2 decades plus. But your journey didn't start there.
Sure.
Your journey started very differently. Can you tell us a little bit about, how you began, into this world that you are in right now?
Sure. So interestingly, design was not on top of mind when I was in school. I had a very clear vision at that time. I was going to go and study BCom, and I wanted to go to Harvard. So it was that route which I had. And there was a teacher of mine in school called Mrs. Ipe, and she felt there's a creative spark. And then she told me about this place called NID. And I hadn't heard of it. And
This is National Institute of Design.
Yeah, National Design in Ahmedabad. And there's a friend of mine who was applying. And by the time I got to know, the date for application was over. So there's a specific date. And those days, you had to send a demand draft of 40 rupees. And then they send you an application form. You fill, and half the people they select from the application form. It's a very detailed one. So what I did is I took a Xerox copy of her application form and filled it on that and wrote a letter to NID saying, no, I'm quite excited about this design program, but I didn't know about it. So don't discount it on legal grounds. And I put a 40 rupee actual rupees in the envelope and I posted it thinking there's no chance. And interestingly, that went through. And then they have these tests. So those days, 20,000 people applied and 30 were selected. So it was, I never even thought what it was. Nobody knew what design was. I think my parents hadn't heard about this, so it wasn't on my radar at all. So I sent this in. And then the day of the test, they have these test centers. So I took the Chennai one. And again, my mindset at that time was there was a school sports day the next day and I was into sports. So my thought is, how do I reach back in time for the sports day? And I think it was a 2-hour exam from 3 to 5. And this Madras Mail, which is the train leaves at 5:30. So I was doing the test saying, how do I make it back for the sports day? So I finished half an hour before because I had to run to the
You had your priorities straight.
Priorities, school sports day. So I finished it fast. And those guys who were the invigilators said that, how come you already finished? People looking at me, all the guys who were like, so I was like, I have to take a train. So I got back, I reached for the sports day and stuff. And I never thought in my wildest dream that then they had this process where 100 people are called for an interview. And I got the call. And in my wildest dreams, I didn't expect. And I fell in love with the place when I went and visited the campus. And the process of the test. In those days, it was very detailed. They put you with some materials. Then there's an interview where there's also a psychoanalyst present. And I remember there was this teacup they served with this biscuit, Mari biscuit. And they said, suddenly the guy asked, what will you do other than this with the biscuit? What other 5 things can you do? And they give you a puzzle. And that really fascinated me. You walk around the campus, and then you come back and suddenly they ask you, write down everything which you felt with all your senses. So the whole test process was, I fell in love with it. They had this group exercise, you do a play, somebody's observing your dynamics. And so there were a lot of these people who had come with these massive bags of paintings and watercolors. And I went with school sports certificates. I had no paintings or art. And I think the application form, which I didn't give up, they found it quite interesting. And they brought that up saying, you don't take no for an answer. And that's what we like in a designer. And that stood me in this thing. And I got in. So that I remember was damn exciting. How to explain to my parents. My dad is like, what are you? What is this?
How did you explain? Because for I know, coming from a traditional Indian background as well, and for a lot of us who are listening in and watching to this conversation, we want to pursue careers, fields, especially today when there are so many options available that are so different from the safe ones out there.
You're right, because if I look back in hindsight, I'm blessed with my parents because they finally said, you choose whatever it is. And the only thing when we asked around were people saying, it's a crazy place, there's drugs, and this was the only feedback. And I guess my parents trusting that it's something which I'm passionate about. Right? And those days, I'm talking in 91, to say just follow your passion is a big hats off to.
Absolutely.
So I guess I was so lucky with education. I went to a school called Rishi Valley, which was so unique in itself. Then I was in a school called Corpus Christi with a lady called Mary Roy, who was so inspiring. And then this parent said, go ahead. So I didn't have much convincing. And I guess I had an elder brother who had heard about it, who told my parents, don't worry, it's a good place. He connected me to somebody who's been there. So I guess the whole ecosystem was fantastic. Every time I'd come back for holidays, my dad would say, can you tell me, what do I tell people? Like, what are you doing? Because people used to say, I used to get these aunts who would come and ask me to paint a sari for them. Or no. So it was a lot of confusion on what is this guy really doing? But they trusted the process. And of course, NID was a super unique place. It was, this is designers living together. So yes, for me, this traditional guy from Kerala, it was a culture shock. And so when I was there, some of the observations, I mean, of course, everybody is talking crazy things. It's only about innovation. And the ecosystem of having just designers together, you learn more from each other than just the education, the library. So I wanted to learn every department. So I think back in the day itself, it was about, though I studied product design, I chose product design because I like the process of design. But I was hanging out in the graphic design studio. So I probably at that time, I realized that for me, I'm from a family which is already a business family. And so there was that business thing always there. So I think in second year, I told my parents, don't send me money. I want to try and see if I can make it on my own. I don't know where that came from. So I started taking work from outside and doing business while I was in campus, getting it done from other students. So I probably had the first computer which was in the room back then when nobody had computers. So I was doing graphic design projects outside while I was studying product design.
Wow.
And again, there was multi stuff. I was doing most of the cultural activities on campus, organizing the festivals. So I was learning a lot more outside class. And again, getting sponsors in for the first time on campus for the Garba. So we sort of commercialized it to do a bigger scale. We had a movie festival. I got sponsors in. So I was talking to industry. So I suddenly realized I was finding all that a lot more exciting. And during the course, I observed that most of the designer friends I knew were quite comfortable being designers. And you could hear a lot of conversation on campus when somebody successful would come. The talk was, he's successful or he's doing this, so he's probably not doing good design. So there was always that, and I sense there was a lot of the creative process which was very personal. It was about expressing yourself, and right at the beginning for me, I felt that is art, and is where you take care of yourself. And of course, you don't have to choose is one of the things I sensed. And I felt that I've got to get a business exposure because I was thinking Harvard and all first. I was on the campus and I really wanted to do something a lot more exciting. I remember back in the day, I wanted to finish it in 5 years because I had seniors who were passing out 7 years, 8 years, because it was a very relaxed place. You don't answerable to anybody else, but I was in a hurry to get going.